You walk into a crowded room and immediately want to leave. Not in 5 minutes. Your chest tightens. Your skin prickles. Your brain starts scanning for the exit. Everyone else seems fine. Laughing. Talking. Moving through the crowd like it's nothing. But for you, it's overwhelming. And you've never fully understood why. This is the psychology of people who hate crowded places. And it's not about being antisocial. It's about how your brain is wired. Let me explain. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Your nervous system processes stimulation differently. In a crowded place, there's a lot happening. Voices overlapping. Bodies moving unpredictably. Sounds. Smells. Temperatures. Lights. Most people's brains filter this out automatically. They take in what's relevant and ignore the rest. But your brain, it takes in everything. Every conversation fragment. Every sudden movement. Every shift in energy. You're not choosing to notice all of this. Your nervous system is doing it for you. And it's exhausting. This is what psychologists call sensory processing sensitivity. You're not broken. You're just tuned to a higher frequency. Here's the second pattern. Crowded places feel unpredictable, and your brain hates unpredictability. When there are too many people, you can't track what's happening. Someone might bump into you. Someone might start talking to you. Something might happen that you can't anticipate. For people who need a sense of control to feel safe, this unpredictability is deeply uncomfortable. It's not that you're controlling. It's that your nervous system learned somewhere, probably early, that unpredictable environments aren't safe. So now, crowds trigger that ancient alarm, even when there's no real danger. Your body doesn't know the difference. Here's the third pattern. You're absorbing other people's energy. This sounds mystical, but it's actually neuroscience. Mirror neurons in your brain automatically pick up on other people's emotional states. In a crowd, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of emotional signals flying around. Stress, excitement, impatience, frustration, joy. And if you're highly empathic, you're picking up all of it, without meaning to, without wanting to. By the time you leave, you're not just tired. You're carrying emotions that aren't even yours. No wonder crowds feel draining. You're not just existing in them. You're processing everyone else's experience. Here's the fourth pattern. Personal space isn't a preference. It's a need. Every person has an invisible boundary around their body. When strangers enter that boundary without permission, your brain registers it as a threat. In a crowd, your personal space is constantly being invaded. Bodies too close. Strangers brushing against you. No room to breathe. For some people, this is mildly annoying. For you, it might feel like an assault. Not dramatic. Neurological. Your brain is wired to protect your physical boundaries, and crowds violate them constantly. Here's the fifth pattern. You might have had a bad experience. Maybe you got lost in a crowd as a child. Maybe you were trapped somewhere overwhelming. Maybe something happened in a crowded place that your body still remembers, even if your mind forgot. Trauma doesn't need to be dramatic to leave marks. Sometimes it's a single moment of panic that never fully processed. And now, every crowded place brings a whisper of that old fear. You're not being irrational. You're being protective. Your body is trying to keep you safe from something that happened before. Here's another layer. Crowds remove your sense of identity. When you're surrounded by masses of people, you become anonymous, faceless, just another body in the swarm. For some people, this is freedom. For others, it's deeply unsettling. If you need to feel like an individual to feel safe, crowds threaten that. You disappear into them. And disappearing feels like danger. Here's what introverts understand. Energy is finite. Social interaction costs something, and in a crowd, you're paying that cost to dozens of people simultaneously, not through conversation necessarily, but through presence, through awareness, through the constant low-level processing of human beings around you. An introvert in a crowd is spending energy they didn't agree to spend on people they'll never actually connect with. It's not antisocial to find that exhausting. It's arithmetic. Here's the anxiety component. For people with social anxiety, crowds are a nightmare of potential judgment. Every face is a potential critic. Every glance might be a valuation. Every laugh might be about you. Rationally, you know this isn't true. But anxiety doesn't operate on logic. It operates on fear. And in a crowd, there are endless triggers for that fear. You're not being paranoid. You're experiencing a nervous system that's stuck in threat detection mode. Here's something most people don't realize. Hating crowds doesn't mean you hate people. It means you hate the conditions that make meaningful connection impossible. In a crowd, you can't have a real conversation. You can't actually see anyone. You can't be yourself. For people who value depth over surface, crowds offer nothing, just noise where connection should be. You don't hate people. You hate the noise that prevents you from actually experiencing them. Here's the control element. In a crowded place, you can't control your environment. You can't control the temperature, the noise, the movement, the pace. Everything is dictated by the mass. For people who self-regulate through environmental control, this is destabilizing. You're used to adjusting your surroundings to match your needs. In a crowd, you can't. And that loss of control triggers stress. Not because you're a control freak, because control is how you stay regulated. Here's what your hatred of crowds might really be saying. I need space to think. I need predictability to feel safe. I need boundaries to be respected. I need depth over breadth. I need my energy protected. I need to feel like an individual. These aren't weaknesses. They're needs. Valid, important, human needs. The problem isn't that you have them. The problem is that crowds make them impossible to meet. Here's how to reframe this. You're not antisocial. You're selectively social. You're not weak. You're sensitive. You're not broken. You're wired differently. The world is designed for people who thrive in crowds. Concerts, malls, open offices, parties. But that's not everyone. And it doesn't have to be you. You're allowed to need what you need, even if the world doesn't always provide it. Here's what I want you to know. Your hatred of crowds is information. It's your nervous system telling you what it needs. Less stimulation, more space, predictability, depth, safety. Listen to it. Honor it. Stop forcing yourself into environments that drain you just because everyone else seems fine. They're not you, and that's okay. Before you go, tell me, do you hate crowded places? Does this help explain why? Drop it in the comments. And if you've spent your whole life thinking something was wrong with you because crowds feel unbearable, comment, I'm wired differently. Let's see how many of us have been quietly avoiding crowds and finally understanding why. You're not broken. You're just tuned to a different frequency. And that frequency is valid.